Hello everybody, welcome back to the next episode of All the Mods 8. In between episodes, I did a couple things. The first thing I did was I added some more of the induction providers. That has increased our max input and output speeds to 209 million FE per tick, which I think will be sufficient for pretty much everything we're going to need. I'm pretty sure the maximum power generation we're going to be able to get is around that. And all I'm going to do to upgrade this now is just add more of the inductive capacity cells as they fill up. So I can just kind of keep adding more and more. And if I really want to add even more than that, I can just go ahead and push this back a little bit and have another row in the back. The fissile fuel here has also been going really well. The one limiting factor that I have now is the rate at which we are getting uranium in, I believe. I added to this machine here a gas upgrade, and that actually drastically decreased the amount of sulfuric acid we were using. Our limiting factor now is yellow cake uranium, unfortunately, and the only real way that we can get around that is by adding more uranium production, so we can increase the number of seeds we're using. But to be honest, I don't really know how much fissile fuel we're actually going to need. I also increased the speed of our power setup here by adding the nitro energizing rods, and I also increased the speed of the cables here too. These cables can, I think, transfer about 100 million FE per tick, and these have a max IO in-out of, I think, 200,000. So we should be able to run these at max, assuming we have the power to support it. I also made this morphing tool. It's its own mod, but it basically lets you add all the different types of wrenches from different mods into one single tool. And I didn't show how you craft it on camera, but basically you just take the morphing tool, which is very cheap actually. You put it in your crafting and you just put in the wrench that you want to add to it, and it will then just kind of add it to its internal storage of wrenches. And we can see in here that we have the laser IO wrench, the pipes wrench, the create wrench, and the mechanism configurator all in one tool. And depending on what machine you're looking at, it will automatically determine what type of tool or what type of wrench it requires. For example, if I look at one of these mechanism machines here, it actually will automatically turn the morphing tool into the configurator. Likewise, if I'm looking at the mechanical crafters here, it will turn into the create wrench. This is just a handy little tool, nothing crazy, but it will hopefully speed up some things and just be a bit of a quality of life thing. I'm actually having a bit of an issue down here in the mob farms. As you can see, these rooms are completely dark, and you know, we've back when I set these up, these were dark inside and you couldn't see inside of them. But now, for some reason, this spawner here is active, but no mobs are actually spawning. Now, in here, there is only one little light spot here, and it actually is allowing some mobs to spawn. But there is still a light source in there, I think of like 5. But in these ones, there's much brighter sources, and I've tried removing the floors and the walls, and I've taken out some other blocks and replaced things, and nothing seems to be working. So I really don't know what's going on here. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, please let me know. So my goal for this episode is to get to the point where we have a working fission reactor. Now, there are quite a few steps here that we have already completed, and the quest line here does a really good job of going through and really explaining how the fission reactor works. And I think what we're going to do is we are going to go through this step by step, just so that we have a good idea of what we're setting up and how we're going to set it up, because this is probably one of the more dangerous machines in the entire pack, because if this thing has a very high tendency to explode if not managed correctly. So we're going to have to be very careful with this thing, and probably the best way to ensure that we do this properly is by following the information and quest line that they have provided in the pack. Once we have a working fission reactor here, and we have it working and stable, then we should be able to produce polonium pellets by using a PRC with some water and the polonium. Polonium is a way of making use of the nuclear waste, and we send it into a solar neutron activator. To get the nuclear waste, this is just a byproduct of running the fission reactor, and it's something that you have to do something with, or else it'll just back up. Eventually, by the time you end up processing all this stuff down, you do get to the point where you have spent nuclear waste, and the only thing that you can do with spent nuclear waste is to dump it into some radioactive barrels where it'll very, very slowly decay. With the plutonium, you need to send nuclear waste through a isotropic centrifuge, but both of these are going to be required to get all the materials that we need to craft this multi-block. The last part of this is also HDPE sheets. To get the HDPE sheets, we have to take 3 pellets and put them into an enrichment chamber. But to get the pellets, we have to get a PRC filled with liquid ethylene and oxygen, as well as some substrate. This is a whole separate crafting setup that we're going to have to do. Realistically, all we really need is an influx of those pellets. It's not a huge area that we're going to require, so we might actually be able to fit it in back here. Yeah, I do think this should be more than enough space to set up the pellet and sheet production, so I'll probably end up doing that back there. So anyway, the ultimate goal of today's episode, I think, is going to be getting everything ready to start the top half of the advanced mechanism section. So I'm hoping to have the fission reactor set up, and hopefully we have all the resources that we're going to be needing automated to produce all the stuff for the SPS, and also for the fusion reactor, which is going to provide us with all the power we're going to need. Recommends that we craft a hazmat suit. Now, I'm going to only craft this just for the quest, but I don't actually think I'm going to wear it because realistically, if you're careful, we should never have to worry about radiation. These steps up here we have already completed because we already have fissile fuel ready to go, but it does have a separate kind of check mark here for all this, and we might have to go ahead and pick up some of our machines in there just to complete the quest line. In order to craft the fission reactor, we're going to need apparently 53 reactor casings and 41 reactor glass. Now, I believe this is going to be for a 5x5x5 fission reactor. The maximum size for these can be 18 by 18 by 18, so that's an 18 block cube. And I do think we are going to go for the largest size. Scratch that. I don't think we're going to go for the largest size, but I think we're going to go to aim to have all of the fission reactor set into one chunk. That way, it's just easy to chunk load, and that way we'll just kind of keep it relatively small and compact. So the actual fission reactor may only be about 15 by 15 in our case. So I think we're going to go ahead and make just a 15 by 15 fission reactor, and I think that should be plenty large for what we're going to need. So I'm just doing a little bit of math here, and what I've mathed out is we're going to need about 121 of the casings, 676 glass, or rounding up 11 stacks of glass, and that has to be the reactor glass, I believe. Now this might be completely off math wise but I think this is about what we're going to start with. So we have to do 121 of these casings. Let's see if we can go ahead and make that, or if we're missing anything. We should be good. Yep. Okay. Oh, and they're already done. Fantastic. And the big one now, we're going to need 11 stacks of the glass. And okay, so we're going to have to do a little bit of crafting, but we do have all the things we need. But that is coming in nice and fast, which is really good. So hopefully that's going to be all we're going to need to set that up. We also have to craft a couple of the... I set all these up intentionally on AutoCraft already, just to make this process a little bit easier. We are going to need a few of these ports. I'm going to go ahead and craft 8. I don't think we actually need this many, but I'm just going to have a few extra to be safe. I will grab those. We will need at least 2 of the redstone logic adapters, like so. And this is what we're going to actually use to kind of have a safety switch on the reactor in case of emergency. And finally, we're going to need the fission fuel assemblies. Now, I'm not 100% sure how many of these we're going to be putting in here. We have to stack them on top of each other, and they have to be capped off by a control rod. So that's one thing I didn't actually... The control rod assembly. Here we go. We have to autocraft this as well. And if my math is correct again, I think we need about 1,020 of the fuel rod assemblies. And then we also need, I think, about 80 of the rod assemblies. We're not missing anything, so we're going to go ahead and get those started. These, on the other hand, could take a while. We're going to need about that many. We are quite a bit of lead short. Okay, so we're missing lead Lead is our limiting factor right now. So to hopefully remedy our lead situation, I'm going to go ahead and get a digital miner. I just put it on AutoCraft and we should be able to make one. So we'll go ahead and get one started here. And essentially what this will let us do is just travel around and hopefully try and get a whole bunch of the raw lead ore that we can fortune up. So let's go ahead and put this down outside and see how it works. So here is our digital miner. We are going to need some sort of inventory, I believe, to pipe into. Now we need to give this thing some power on the side like so. And now we should be all set. Now this thing does take, I believe, speed and energy upgrades. I will actually go ahead and get those into him as well, because that will hopefully help a ton. Okay, speed and energy is applied. We do want to have silk touch mode turned on, auto pull on, and auto eject on. So let's go ahead and configure this thing. We want to basically set our Y values here. So our minimum Y value, we want to be -64. And for the max, we're going to say up to maybe 150. So if we come in here, we can adjust the item stack filter and we can add all the lead ores that we have in our inventory. I think it's just the 3 so far, but if we go ahead and we should be able to start, and it looks like it's going to be pulling 1800 of the lead ore out one by one. So that's actually really good. It does appear to be keeping up with the power. This thing is quite power hungry, so that's okay. It's currently using 141,000 FE per tick to run at max speed here. So we could probably even take out a couple speed upgrades and that will drop it down significantly. Now we're going to have maybe less of an issue with power, and it's seemingly kind of coming in at a similar rate anyway. So we'll go ahead and put that away. But now we should be having lead ore come into our system automatically, which is good. Now what we can do is we can take this lead ore, and this is a little manual. Again, this is just supposed to be a way we can get some lead quickly, and we can just go ahead and wand this up, grab our super high fortune pickaxe, shapeless, and we're going to shapeless mine this, and there we go. We have now 4 or 5 stacks of lead just from doing that little bit, and we have plenty more coming in. So this should be a hopefully good way that we can get ourselves some lead really easily. Now, unfortunately, I haven't set up any ore doubling setups yet. For now, we're just going to have to take our lead and send it into the smelter here, which is very quick. Where is it? Here it is. Just like so. And now we have lead going into our system very easily. I believe we needed about 5,000 lead to finish that craft, so I'll see how much we can get maybe in like 10 to 15 minutes of just letting this thing run. Well, we're currently at 1,200 blocks left, so we've gone through maybe about 400 of the raw ore, and we've basically got ourselves up to 3.6 thousand lead, so this is definitely going to be sufficient for this craft. So this is a really good way to do it if you do have the power for this. And also, it helps to have a pickaxe with Fortune 7, and also the Lucky Scarf that I have. I just finished crafting everything up here, and we should be all set, ready to go. Now, I have all these completed. This is kind of a demonstration of how it wants you to set up the redstone logic for the shutoff switch, and I think this is a really good idea to have. This isn't technically required to make the actual reactor run, but it's also a very bad idea to not put something so simple in, which could save you a lot of headache. That's pretty much everything that we need to start setting up this reactor. Now, where I'm going to set this reactor up is actually in the mining dimension. The mining dimension is just a nice flat space that we can fly off maybe, 5 or 6 chunks in that direction, and then we can just set this thing up. Okay, so I had a bit of a change of heart. Even though I have already gone ahead and crafted all of these materials for the fission reactor, I don't think I want to do the full 15 by 15 by 15. I think that's maybe a little excessive for what we're going to need. If in the future I do have to expand it, that's totally fine. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to make a 9 by 9. So we're going to get some of this, and I think this should be still totally fine if we just 6, 7, 8, 9. And again, this is going to be right at this chunk here. This This kind of is where I've laid out the chunks so we know what we have to work with in terms of space. And then I'm going to go ahead also and do this right now and claim this one chunk. This is force loaded, which is good. And let's go ahead and make this on the bottom here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this should be a 9x9 fission reactor. Based on this, it looks like glass can go on the bottom, so that's going to be good. I'm just going to go ahead and wand this up then, like so. And, oh, it looks like it's going to be doing all of it for us. Which is good. That should hopefully then encase these sides, which is good. And now we have to do these sides. For some reason, this is just really glitchy looking with the glass, but regardless, we'll just keep on going. And then we got to fill in the front. And of course, we need to have some ports on here. Let's go ahead and grab those ports out of here and the fission rod assemblies. Now, let's actually hop inside here for now. We're going to start placing down these fuel rods. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to actually just lay them out on the bottom, kind of like a checkered board pattern, like so. And then we can wand them all the way up to the top. I took the top layer off just so that I can get up to the top. Okay, so at this point, we have to take the control rods, and I think we can just go ahead and also put these on with a wand, like so. And that's it. Now we just have to cover this up with some glass, and we should effectively be all done. Okay, here is our finished fission reactor. So we can see that the multi-block has formed. We can right-click, and we can access the interface for the fission reactor. I'm going to actually drop a waystone down here, just so we have a way to get back here relatively easily. We'll just call it Fission Reactor. Now all we have to do is basically pump in some coolant. So we have to pump in water, and we have to pump in fissile fuel. So we're going to actually need a total of 4 of these ports, but I'm actually going to go ahead and just use the bottom 2 here as our input ports. So we're going to actually have to get one of the entangler back out. We're actually going to want to set this to the fissile fuel. It's a gas, so we want to take the gas, we want to output the top, auto eject, and then we should just be able to come and grab some pressurized tube. Let's go grab the ultimate here and hook that up like so, and hopefully we should have this. Yeah, immediately it's filled in. So there, 1200 buckets of fissile fuel are in there, ready to go. Likewise, here we want to take some of the mechanical pipe and basically pipe in water from here, just like so. Now, we are going to have to set this extract here. You can also set up multiple sinks or multiple extracts from the same sink, and I think that will also help. We can actually try that here. Let's go ahead and just try it really for a sec. We can break this because we haven't activated it yet. Obviously, you don't want to break it if you have already activated it, but we can go ahead now and get some more pipes. We can extract out the sides too, like this. Let's go ahead and just disconnect them here just so that we keep them kind of as separate systems. And that should be filling it 3 times as fast now. Now let's set up the logic ports here. I'm actually going to have to disconnect this observer just for now. We want when the reactor reaches dangerous temperatures, we want it to output a redstone signal. That's going to cause this to shoot up and trigger the observer into this one. So effectively, because this is inverted, when this actually gets a redstone signal, it should deactivate the entire thing. Now, I want to make sure that this actually works before I let this thing run at highest speed. And the way we're going to be able to test that is we can go ahead and set a really low burn rate. I'm just going to set it to the lowest for now, just like that. So now we're going to have a very low burn rate, so we shouldn't have any issue keeping up with the cooling. Now I'm going to have the waste go right here. I'm going to put a port. This is going to be a output port. Output waste. Maybe we can actually just put it right into the isotropic centrifuge and go ahead and give this a craft like so. And we are all set there. So this is just going to be a temporary one just so that we have somewhere for this waste to go. And then we're gonna pipe it over to maybe here. And then once we actually use the centrifuge, it's going to turn into polonium, I believe is what it is. Either it's polonium or plutonium. Plutonium, okay. And then we got to put it into a PRC. That is a quest as well. So let's go ahead now and connect up the pressurized tubing. We don't want these to connect though. That's not ideal. I really don't want to void 2,000 buckets of fissile fuel if I don't have to. Well, let's go ahead and just break this then. I'm going to move this port for now. This has a bunch of fissile fuel just sitting in it, so I'm just going to connect them back up here. But for now, let's just put the port above and let's not have them connect. We're going to have this output waste, and then we're going to run this around, not connecting to these pipes, just like so. Okay, I think we have it all ready to test out. So I have everything hooked up. I have the fissile fuel pumping in, cooling. I have the isotropic centrifuge, which should be accepting the waste out of this reactor. It's powered, and then the output of this should be plutonium, which is then going to come into here and create plutonium pellets, which will then give us some spent waste, which we then have to send into these radioactive barrels to decay. Yeah, so without further ado, let's go ahead and make sure that our burn rate is nice and low. The rate is that. Let's activate this and we should have no problems. Our temperature is going up, but it should stabilize hopefully because we do have coolant. So I'm not sure how far this is going to go. There we go. So we've stabilized at 373 Kelvin. And again, that's, you know, we can increase the burn rate to make this thing produce more, but that way we can kind of just do a little bit of an initial test. Now this should very slowly be producing some nuclear waste. There we go. We can see it coming in here, 1 millibucket at a time. And that is going right into here and creating plutonium. And we also need to provide this with fluorite dust. That's one thing I never considered. We might have to get ourselves some fluorite dust. So that is what we're going to need to have to make this start to work. But this is stable. I want to make sure this thing actually turns off if this gives a redstone signal. So to test that, let's go ahead and get a lever maybe. I'm not sure if this is going to act the same way, but if I go here and do this, that has disabled this. Okay, yeah, so basically if this activates because of high temperature, this will go up and basically give a tick pulse to turn this thing off, and then that'll basically be it. It'll just turn itself off that way, so that's good. Well, let's see how fast we can push this thing. I want to say we can maybe try and go up to a 5 millibucket per tick burn rate. If I activate this, we will have this. Okay, so we are stabilizing. The heating coolant tank, we might have to also void that. That might actually be a problem. We might have to void the extra coolant or the steam. So let's go ahead and turn this thing off. Let's go ahead and put this here. We'll break it there, and we will need to put one more port. And this is going to be the output coolant. There we go. There's stretched. Okay, perfect. Let's go ahead and turn this back on again. This should be staying empty. Perfect. And the waste tank should be good. Now, this is burning not too badly, so I think we need to go ahead and actually increase the rate of this a little. I'm going to turn it off first, though. Let's go to 10. That sound like a lot? Okay, so our coolant is draining, which is not good. So we're going to turn this off here. Basically, if your coolant is draining, that means that it can't keep up with the current burn rate. So we're going to have to go ahead and add some more coolant ports to keep up with that. But we'll go ahead and set all the extracts on the sink to pipe right into the reactor, like so. And now that should be plenty of coolant. Yeah, if we turn this back on, it's not draining. We are totally fine. Let's go up to 20. Okay, so the coolant is draining once again. Okay, let's try 16. Okay, so we are stable coolant-wise at 16. So that's probably where I'm going to keep it for now. This is pumping it in pretty quick though, so this is actually a pretty decent speed. Now if I wanted to, I could add, again, we could fill this entire wall with sinks. I could move the output of this this coolant here somewhere else, like maybe in the front. And I can also put some on the front here too, if we want to up the speed of this. But I think for now, that's actually pretty good. Let's turn this off just in the meanwhile, because I don't want to be pumping this thing through full of nuclear waste until I have some of the fluoride dust coming in here to keep up with this. We have to send it through the crusher. That's going to be a auto craft, but we're going to probably want to send it to keep it in stock in the system. So maybe we'll just use refined storage to do that. Let's get ourselves a wireless transmitter and receiver. Okay, I'm going to put an ender chest on top here, and we're going to set the items to output to the top. So that's going to send all of our plutonium into the storage system, and we'll store it in our drawer wall. But we also have to get fluoride dust into this thing. So we're probably going to have to come into the bottom of this. If any of these pipes have any sort of gas in them that is radioactive, you cannot break the pipes at all. Because if you do, then it will cause a spillage, and you do not want that on your hands. But if you just hold shift, you can see that this is an empty tube, so we should have no problems breaking this because there is no radioactive parts in this. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to bring this down and run it underground here. We're going to run this just around. That way we have a spot in here that we can bring up for refined storage. And then we want to just set the extract here. And we want to say the plutonium is going to be coming in as a gas from the bottom. Let's go ahead and export right into the side. Come down here, and we're just going to put the receiver right in the middle. Shift right click, and now we can go ahead and head back home and add this to our network. There we go. Okay, that is good. Let's go ahead and close that back up. Head back to our reactor, and this should be online. It is. Nice. Okay, so we want to set this extract to be fluorite dust, like so. And we need to set a pattern for fluoride dust, like so. Perfect. And we also need to set it to request or keep it in stock. I think I'll go ahead and put it in this one right here. So we want to always keep 16 fluoride dust in stock in our system. And that should mean that there should be fluoride dust already in our setup. Items input to the left. There we go. Now we have it. Perfect. It is filling up, and the plutonium is empty, so that's why we're not getting any plutonium. But I think it just made some. So we should have, yeah, we have 2 plutonium pellets. Awesome. Let's go ahead and put that back into our drawer wall. Now, the thing is, I have to run this nuclear waste into the isotropic centrifuge, but I also have to run it into a different machine because I need what's called the polonium pellets. To get polonium, we have to send this through the solar neutron activator. I think I could probably make that. Let's just go ahead and see if I can just craft this really quick. Oh, we're missing HDPE. Oh, is that required for this? Oh, it is. So we are going to have to get our setup for this first. So let's go back down to our fissile fuel production area and see if we can get some of these HDPE pellets. Okay, we're back down here in the basement. To start off here along the lines of HDPE production, we have to get some biofuel. Now, there's a bunch of different options on how we can actually get biofuel. All of this is done in the crusher from Mekanism, and there are a lot of different options, and each one has its varying amounts of biofuel it'll produce. I do want something that's easy to automate is the idea, and I'm thinking any crop that we can grow with the lily pads of fertility and harvest will actually be a really good option for this. Anyway, we need to now put a inventory on top of this. I think we're just going to go ahead and do a drawer just so we can have a void upgrade on it. Okay, so let's go ahead and put the crusher down maybe right here. We want to take the logistical pipes, and we already have 75 carats. That should be a really good rate for what we need. Let's go ahead and just pipe these into the top for now. So this is creating biofuel. What we have to do with the biofuel now is put it into a PRC to create substrate with ethylene. And we get an output of ethylene, which is what we're after. We also want the substrate too, but The ethylene is what we're after. So maybe we'll actually be running this a little further back here. I maybe underestimated how much space we're going to want for this. We're going to get this PRC down right. We'll put it down right here like this. We are also going to need an electrolytic separator, which we can auto craft apparently. Good. And then we got to pipe in some water just like this. And that should be creating hydrogen and oxygen. We're going to dump excess on both. We only want to output the hydrogen to this side because we want hydrogen and water, I believe, to use this with. Let's go ahead and double check that. But yeah, hydrogen and water. So we want actually to put water in here to here, like so. And we want to also take the, oh, that's not the right pipe. We want to take a pressurized tube and send this into the back of this like so. And we have the correct configuration already. Perfect. And also use a logistical pipe to send. There we go. Biofuel is being sent into this machine. The only thing we are missing here is power. So this is going to be a little messy, but it doesn't have to be pretty. It's just going to be doing this in the background. And that's good. We have substrate and ethylene. Now we have to send the substrate from the PRC that we just made here into another PRC with this ethylene, as well as with the extra oxygen from the electrolytic separator. It all kind of comes together in the end. If I take the cable out of here and run this into the back, that should take care of the oxygen. I'm going to go ahead and check the gas. Our oxygen should be on... There we go. There we go. We're getting oxygen. Perfect. I'm going to run this cable here and hook it up while we're already doing it. And now we have to send in ethylene from this machine and the substrate, which is fine. We just need to then send the substrate out the front. Okay, substrate has made it in perfectly. And now all we have to do is connect up the output of gases to be on the front. It has to be liquid ethylene. So we actually have to run it through a condensator first. Okay, that's fine. And that is actually already doing its thing. It's converting it to liquid ethylene, and we're getting HDPE pellets. Perfect. So all we have to do now is extract this to the output to the right into an ender chest, which is our input. Perfect. It's not pretty, but it gets the job done. Let's get a solar neutron activator, and that is a quest. Perfect. And let's go ahead and get back to our fission reactor. So we got to set this thing up right beside the isotropic centrifuge. I think what we're going to do is we're just going to put a PRC right here. It's going to do the exact same thing as this setup, pretty much. We want to run this down the side. We don't want to connect anywhere else. We want to hook in partly to this machine here, and then partly to this machine here. Actually, let's run this. Let's move this one back here. Let's go here like we did before. And we're going to do the same thing we did here with the refined storage. I hope it does output at the bottom. I'm not 100% sure if it will. But then we want to come in here. We want to break this out and get some refined storage cable. I'm going to export fluoride dust, and that is working perfectly. We have to connect up the pipe in the back. We actually want to bring water in just from the side here. That's going to be, again, our storage input. If we just extract all the items to the top. All right, let's go ahead and turn this thing on. Oh, I didn't hook up the... Oh, hold on. Scram this for now. These are going to have waste, which I did not consider. Now, they don't have anywhere they can dump their waste as of now. Yeah, unfortunately, every side of this is taken up except for the other side here. So I think I'm going to have to run piping up and around this, which I don't want to have to do, but I'm going to have to now chunk load this one right here too, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of being in one chunk. But so we are all ready to go. Let's turn this back on again. And this should be getting stuff. That is getting some, and well, there we go. Output was not set the right. Okay, we're going the right way now. This is not getting any plutonium. Oh, I removed the cable here. I didn't realize that. We need to run the output of this to the bottom. Oh, there we go. Now it's sharing. Okay, so now I got to take the pressurized tube. We want to disconnect it in the middle and run it all the way here. Now we can go here, gas, start the eject. This should start filling up, which it is. And we can come here to the gases and also start ejecting, which it will do. So both of these are filling up at a reasonable rate. Not super fast, but fast enough. And our reactor appears to be stable. So I feel comfortable now leaving this be to do its thing. Now, this solar neutron activator will only work while the sun is up because it is solar based. So we aren't going to get polonium while it's nighttime, but that's okay because that way it'll just this will just take over and it'll just start pumping out way more of the plutonium. We have gotten ourselves to the point now where we have a working fission reactor producing us polonium and plutonium, which we need to craft the parts for the fusion reactor here and the SPS casings for this SPS machine. And we should have some polonium in the system, but probably not a lot. 8. Okay. And again, we only need, it's 1 polonium per case. So we only need 36. So we're well on our way. Next episode, we're definitely going to be setting up the fusion reactor and the SPS, and we're going to start getting ourselves antimatter, and that's going to be awesome. But anyways, that's it from me, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.